Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ad Hoc Sustainability Resilience Committee meeting. It is July 9th, 6:02. Officially calling this meeting to order. With us are council members Smith and myself. And now, council member Smith, what do we have to, how do we address?
Well, you just say we don't have a quorum. And
Okay.
so when you can go ahead and do public participation. When you get to the acceptance of the minutes, you just say we'll have to move that to the next meeting. Table it to the next, well, we can't even table because we can't vote, but you know.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so
But,
we don't
but
have
you
a
can, you
quorum.
can move forward with roll call. I'm sorry, public participation.
All right, sure. Okay. All right. Now, okay, cool. All right, Jody, do we have anyone that would like to address the committee?
Yes, one person has their hand
Great. As a
raised.
reminder, please say your first, last name, address, and um, you have 3 minutes to speak to whichever item or the item that's on the agenda. So please go ahead.
All right, we're going to start with Diane Lauricella.
Hey, good evening, Chairman Lopez and members of the council, and Jody Trendler. For the record, my name is Diane Lauricella, 21 Little Fox Lane. Tonight, I was very interested in the agenda, and I'll be listening or reviewing the recording. Something very near and dear to my heart. Both Ms. Smith and Mr. Lopez, when I first met you both, I spoke to you about the Mayor's Energy and Environmental Task Force and its history. I am, sadly, it was not enhanced and continued after about 2014, 2015. And the reason I wanted to talk with you about it is for this task force that is on the agenda tonight. I've read some of the minutes about some of the council members thinking that it was too large, too big a group. But I wanted to say, not if the leadership is intact and reliable and commendable. There was a leadership issue, in my opinion, and unfortunately, the mayor did not either know of it or want to do any changes with Mr. Kaitis. There was a need to have subcommittees, vice chair. None of that was allowed by Mr. Kaitis. And so that was a leadership issue. And I do think that fairness is important as well. The matrix, I ask that you look at it, was something that I constructed with Steve Clokey. He put it on spreadsheet because I didn't know how to at the time. This is a long time ago. The matrix has a lot of things that we tried, or I tried, and some others. Don't limit it, please, to just current boards and commissioners. They have other things to do. If you decide not to have your community task force, or even if you do, which I think is a good idea, please maybe ask for resumes of people with specialties. Because what we had back in the Mayor's Energy and Environmental Task Force days is we had people that were in the business of, for instance, solar or waste management, energy efficiency. I don't feel that all of our current board and commission chairs, while they are wonderful people, have expertise. And for us to get back on track, we need expertise. And your community, the city of Norwalk, people should be asked fairly and ask for their resumes. And then you then will put together a better situation. Ms. Shanahan's on, I see now too. So I hope that my words for those that aren't on the call could be, I hope they review them. I think it's really important to make sure that we enhance and value our community members that have the expertise and the interest in helping the city move forward. So I look forward to the discussion. I think there were a lot of good things on that sustainability task force slideshow that Ms. Trendler put together last month. And I look forward to the discussion. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Luricello. Jody, do we have anyone else that would like to, with their hands raised, or like to
Uh,
speak?
yes, we have Diane CC.
Okay, as a reminder, Ms. Diane Cece, you have 3 minutes. Speak to item of the agenda, first, last name, address, and you can proceed. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Mhm.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Cece, Olmsted Place, East Norwalk Neighborhood Association. I really was hopping on tonight just to listen in a bit as I'm following this as best I can. But when I did hop on, so I just want to, sorry, I'm just going to gripe a little bit on process here because I find this happening more and more with meetings I attend. When I hopped on at 6 o'clock and I was waiting for the meeting to start, when you started the meeting and clicked in for us Zoom attendees, you were already speaking. I think you may have already done roll call because you were talking about a quorum, and then you went to public participation. So I'm not sure what I may have missed, and it's a bit frustrating then to have to go backtrack on a video. So I would just ask if that's Miss Hugh Trendler, and I know you're probably new to all our stuff, and but if you could just be aware to tune folks in before you start anything. And then I'm just going to be very quiet now and listen in. Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
You too. Thank you, Miss Cece.
Thank you, Miss Cece. I did notice that.
That was my
happened.
fault, Jody, because there's
Oh,
always like a
okay.
delay. There's always a delay. So yeah, well,
Okay.
I'll take the blame.
Well, it looked like the panel or the attendees dropped and then it took a while for them to come back in. So yeah,
Okay. Do we have
I
any
didn't notice
other?
that before.
Yeah. Do
Nope,
we have
that's
any-
it.
no, Okay. Okay. So we can. Well, except the meetings, we can't do anything because we don't have we don't have a quorum. So we can just get straight to the Community Sustainability and Resilience Task Force. Jody, so I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Let me get my share. Okay. Is it sharing? Can you?
Yes, we can see it. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so what I've done is I've put
Oh, I'm sorry,
together
Jody.
an
Let the record show that Ms. Council Member Shanahan joined at 6:10. Sorry about that. You can continue.
It's okay. So what I've done is I put together an outline for a potential framework structure for the task force, in hoping that it does clarify a little bit when I say that we do need several people to participate in this effort. So as I go through it, hopefully it'll make more sense why I said that, yes, yeah, we need like 40, 50 people. So the overall arching framework mission for the task force started with the Norwalk Sustainability and Resilience Task Force. It's volunteer-led. So this is bringing in our community on a volunteer basis, an advisory group. So it is ideally going to be members that do have expertise in certain areas, or the area that they're choosing to participate in, as well as an interest. And they're committed to supporting the city of Norwalk in our making our sustainability and resilience plan happen. And by coming together, and working in all these separate sectors, we'll be able to come together collaboratively to come up with this vision and make this plan actually happen. So the whole purpose of the task force will be doing research, providing advice, and doing a lot of community promotion, education on policies and practices that are going to reduce our emissions. They're going to protect our natural resources and enhance our public health, support our local economy, and strengthen our overall community resilience. So you can see what it's based upon. It's all going to be structured around the sustainability and resilience plan. And this will be an augmented version of the version that came out in 2024. And this task force, along with our internal green team, are going to be critical in helping to identify appropriate objectives for our sustainability and resilience plan to achieve the targets and goals that are going to be identified to set out to meet. And you can see, obviously, that it's broken down into several different sectors. So we'll have our energy sector. Given that our emissions are primarily coming from our buildings and our cars, Um, the energy sector is going to be one of our most critical committees, subcommittees. We'll have safety, emergency, prep, and recovery, health, food, and housing, building and development, waste and the circular economy, natural resources, mobility, including EV infrastructure development and biking, walking, and public transportation should be on there. And then a very critical one is our community engagement. So that subcommittee is going to be responsible for helping to promote the efforts of all the other subcommittees and really focusing on engaging our community and getting the message out, as well as collecting input. So that's an essential piece to making this a successful effort. Any questions about that? Okay. So ideally, what we're going to be doing is working on the sustainability and resilience plan. So sustainability, working for our long-term viability, and resilience, our ability to bounce back from any potential shocks to our community, be they economic, environmental, social, a lot of different potential impacts. So benefits to having a community task force such as this. It helps to align our community efforts with things that are happening globally as well as regionally and across the state. It helps promote community engagement and develops ownership into the whole process. So it's not just something that's being dictated or mandated. It helps improve local knowledge. So by engaging people, it makes people aware of what's happening and what's going on, and again, helps build that engagement. It will help with climate funding. So a lot of funding mechanisms require that some sort of permanent or steady community engagement process be in place. So this could be one of those tools that would actually help with that. Cross-sector collaboration. This is a huge piece of building sustainability and working on sustainability. It's not operating in silos. So it's a way of making sure that we are maximizing our efficiency and making sure that things are being done in a strategic manner by collaboratively working together. Although we have all the subcommittees that are doing work independently, there still will be the process where everyone will be coming together on a consistent, regular basis in order to collaborate and make sure that everything is being supported across all the different sectors. Capacity building. I'm only one person, so this is a great way to improve my capacity and things that I can get done, as well as other departments across the city. So having that extra research engine is really, really helpful. Helps for crisis preparedness. It's been shown over and over again that the more connected a community is, the more resilient they are when crises happen. And it does help significantly with transparency and accountability, which is also another critical thing that governments are being asked to be. So it's a great way of opening that up. So you can see the general structure. So the task force would be reporting to you all. And I would be involved with this too, obviously. So I would be serving as the overarching contact person, connection, direct connect to the city and you all. And then we'd have all of our committees underneath that. And so within each subcommittee, there would be a chairperson and a secretary that manage, meetings and reporting activities to the whole as well. And then it will go up to you all, up the food chain through that process. But you can see for each of the committees, there's definitely subcommittees within the subcommittees. So energy, a big thing is focusing on clean energy. So we'll need an emphasis on how are we going to get more clean energy into our community, and then also promoting efficiency, so reducing use, mobility, the same, there's at least 3 subsectors for that. Natural resources, there's conservation, restoration, waste, and circular economy. There's actually a few different breakdowns in that. But you can see, and by working with a volunteer community, it's good to have the engagement and the involvement. So the more community that we can bring in, the more input we have, the more perspectives we have, which actually makes it more, much more feasible, and we'll have the buy-in as we evolve through the process and identify our actions. Let's see, any questions about that? Okay. So what the subcommittees will be doing then is we'll go through, we're going to develop our objectives in these sectors for the sustainability and resilience plan. So our sustainability and resilience plan will be broken down into those sectors. And underneath each of those sectors, there will be specific objectives identified that will reduce our emissions is a primary goal, as well as evolve all the other co-benefits that come along with reducing our emissions. So it's improving the community health, all of those, improving our environment, so improving our air quality, all those additional co-benefits that arise from this type of plan. And with each of the objectives that are identified, we'll have our target, we'll have our objective, and then we'll have strategies on how to achieve those. And that process, it includes, identifying issues that, we need to address in order to overcome, to achieve our goal. We'll have specific targets involved. So it's all going to be very data-based, and there will be a lot of metrics that are going to need to be kept track of, and that's going to be a primary objective of each of the subcommittees as well. And so there will be a standardized process that we'll use as for each of the subcommittees so that everybody is working in the same manner in towards similar objectives, so that when we do all come together, we'll all understand what the other committee is talking about. So again, like I said, there'll be a chairperson and a secretary, and then there'll be the monthly subcommittee meetings as well as a monthly task force as a whole meeting. So yeah, our objectives are focusing on both mitigation and adaptation. So we're at a point where we have to do both. We're beyond just the mitigation phase. So we know we have a lot of adaptive strategies that we're going to have to incorporate as well. So for each of the subcommittees, I've gone through and I've created, a general mission statement for each of them and identified some of the tasks. These are not written in stone. We can absolutely, as the committees are formed, discuss these and evolve them as need be. So I don't think I need to go through all of them. They're all here. Yeah. So essentially for our next steps, we need to figure out the best way to move forward with this. And one of the ways that was suggested is to start with a resolution. So I don't know if, Johan, if you want to discuss that, what we've talked about so far for process evolution, or do you want me to talk about it?
Sure, we got, yeah. So, yeah, essentially the thinking was, in terms of the resolution, of course, kind of make a formal commitment. And so our thinking was, one of the things that we were kind of considering was to start off as a grassroots organization and gradually, as it matures, maybe take on the role of commission and then et cetera. So that's one of the things that we're thinking about. If I'm missing anything else, Jody, you can go ahead and fill us in, especially when it comes to the resolution and the next steps for the resolution, or anything about the actual resolution.
Yeah, so that was attached. Let's see. Could pull that up. So I don't know if Barbara or Lisa, if you had a chance to, oh, Nora joined us, yay. If you had a
Yes.
chance to review that. If you had any questions about that, or if you had any thoughts on if that seems like a good way to progress. Where did it go?
Right. So once you put that, bring that up, okay.
Oops. Sorry, my mouse is fighting me.
Could I
All right,
press
is
just
it sharing? Can you
Yes,
see
there
it?
we go. Now we can see it. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I just want to be clear because I didn't have the opportunity to watch the last meeting. I did read the minutes and I do see this in the resolution, but I just want to be clear. So, because a lot of the discussion last time was around the makeup of the task force and it being limited to people on boards and commissions. But I do see that all interested residents, local stakeholders, subject matter, that's included in the resolution. So could you just clarify that for me?
Sure. I mean, I can start. Yeah, Barbara. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
when
thanks.
this.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Johan.
when we first started talking about this, it evolved and morphed, and so one of the things that Jody and I spoke about was the number of residents that want to participate who don't currently serve on commission. So we said, okay, we have to. We really have to modify it to be able to give them the opportunity to serve, especially if they have a level of expertise, experience that'll be beneficial to the task force and to the larger extent, the city. So yes, that's a component that's definitely going to be included as part of this task force. Jody, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why it's included in the resolution that way, or because we need people, we need our community engaged in this. So, so we'll be able to bring in the existing commissions. So for example, on the mobility subcommittee, there's the EV focus, and as well as public transportation and bike walk. So we already have a bike walk commission, so we can, pull from them and their resources. So some of these entities, are already there, but this will also give people who are not, immediately involved in any of those commissions an opportunity to participate and engage, is what the thought was.
Okay, and so that's, a lot of residents, but what about, businesses, because like one of the areas is building and development. Would we want to include, a local developer, someone from a local developer or someone from, Win Waste who could, be a part of it? Okay, good. Because I think those
100% yes.
are really
So,
important. Yeah. So they
absolutely.
really are on board with what we want, and we can recognize the challenges that they might have, right?
That's
So,
exactly right. So we want to make this
okay,
as
awesome.
comprehensive as possible, include all key stakeholders that are part of the community. So absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Nora, did you have a question?
I did, thank you.
Perfect.
And I want to start by thanking you both. And I think I'm excited about this. It all generally, I think, seems like the right impulse. And I think I appreciate the ways in which it recognizes sort of the breadth of the necessary coordination here. I think that the issue that I'm trying to wrap my head around a little bit is kind of where this sits. So as I'm sort of last time I thought that this was sort of intended to be kind of almost more like a steering committee of our existing boards and commissions to try to make sure that they're coordinated. And that then sort of would make this kind of a board or commission of the city, right? Or some apparatus of the city. This resolution, and maybe if I'm misunderstanding Johan, it sounded like maybe you were thinking about this as not being a city board or commission, but sort of overlapping with, I'm wrestling a little bit structurally. And if it is a city board or commission, I do think it needs to be created by ordinance in the way that we create all of our other boards and commissions. So I'm trying to figure out how we make sure that this structurally makes sense and doesn't duplicate things we already have, but rather coordinates them, but also sort of sits in the appropriate place. And it looks like Tom might have some thoughts on that. I see you coming on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Nora. We'd have to decide where this goes. And if it is a commission, and I'm not quite there yet myself, it would have to be set up by ordinance. I agree. Um, I, it- well, I'm eager to hear what the committee decides on this. I mean, I think we can go a couple different directions, but it depends on what people want. But I agree with you on that, the commission being.
Yeah, so to Nora and Tom's point, and so that is up for discussion, right? So I think that's why if you, Jody, if you go scroll down to the pink, which I added somewhere down there, was how does the committee actually want to see this unfold? Keep going down. Oh, there goes the purpose. Okay, it's not in pink. Yeah. So, last sentence, the task force may evolve subject to city approval into a more formal commission or independent nonprofit organization, blah, 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 XYZ. So I kind of wanted to get a feel from everyone here how they would like to see this be put together. Do you want to have it start out as something that's community driven? And then depending on how it matures, depending on any lessons learned and that sort of thing, and get more public input, and it becomes a lot more efficient and lean, then can we vote or work by ordinance to make it an official commission. So that's up for discussion. That's exactly what I wanted to bring up to get everyone's input on.
Yeah, and I sort of see two separate kind of purposes embedded in this conversation, as I understand it. And one is kind of the coordination of our existing efforts, and the other is broadening those efforts, right? And I'm just not sure. I'm not quite sure where. I think I can see arguments in both directions. I think that in many ways Norwalk would benefit from more non-governmental, non-party political kind of civic groups, right? I mean, I think Johan, you and I have talked about this in relation to sustainable streets, and I've really appreciated the ways in which they've sort of made policy contributions. On the other hand, there is this sort of core problem we've identified of having a lot of these issues overlap in multiple existing commissions, and getting those coordinated is an efficiency issue that I would like to see tackled. So I'm not sure if it's actually like two different ways of approaching the problem. I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
Well, Jody, if I'm correct, I think one of the problems this attempts to resolve is the lack of coordination or lack of knowledge of what the individual independent commissions are actually doing. I think this is one way to kind of bring everyone together and make sure knowledge is being kind of filtered through all the different commissions so we're all on the same page, and it's on the same page. It kind of coincides with what the city is doing. And at the same time, also, second, allows more civic engagement from residents, especially when it comes to participation. So I think to Nora, to you, Jody, if you want to add anything else when it comes to helping resolve or close some of the gaps in cross collaboration, if you want to add anything to that, but I think this definitely does solve one of that problem to some extent.
I would agree with what you just said, Johan.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Okay, okay. So that's the thinking is how, as a community, how do we see this unfold? Should we actually work towards make it a more formalized body, or just kind of see how it gradually starts to change and adapt and gets more buy-in and that sort of thing. So, it's not there's pros and cons to both. I mean, I think one of the pros of just really having it as a grassroots community organization is it allows more flexibility, more broad engagement. And then, it kind of avoids some of like the legal paperwork or the kind of the legal, pathway that it has to take to become a more formalized, commission. So it's up for discussion. I mean, we don't have to decide now, but this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up to get everyone's thoughts. And we can continue these conversations and we can kind of get public input as well on what they think. So that's currently where we are with this resolution. Does anyone have any thoughts? Anything they'd like to add at the moment?
If I could, I mean, Johan, I agree with you. Where I'm leaning, although again, I'm listening to the committee, is that this not be overly formal right now. Largely, I think the more formal we get, I think, how do I say this? I want to get the community's buy-in. And I think the more formal you make it, it gets maybe a little harder to do that. I know maybe that's what perception, maybe I'm wrong, but I like the idea of having this, more community driven as opposed to city driven, if you will.
Yeah, Tom, I was thinking too is like, we can avoid like some of the legal mandates right now and it kind of just be community driven and we can kind of see how things unfold and how, where it takes off. Councilmember Smith, see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I'm thinking. I like the idea of that, that independent, community driven. I mean, this is a topic that is so important to so many people, and we often say that, it's hard to get people involved. I don't think this is going to be difficult at all, because it's just so important. So, by allowing it to, it's like that grassroots kind of, formation, by allowing it to become what it becomes, and see how it goes. I think that's the way to go, as opposed to making it all formal and, making it a commission. Sometimes that feels overwhelming to people, to take on a border commission, but something that, they really care about and can get involved in. And so Jody, you would lead the task force regardless? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Unless
anyway,
there's
yeah,
like a
that's-
community member who's like, no, I mean, if there's a community member who is like, wants to
Mhm.
take the bull
Yeah.
by the horns.
My
Great.
answer is yes.
And Barbara too, also too, Jude and I, we're talking about, providing a conceptual framework, which I use in my job all the time. It's sort of like an explicit guideline that really outlines a logical sequence of sections that lead to the outcomes. So they're going to have something that's going to allow them to kind of like, and I think Jody, yeah, you showed it before on a different slide, numerically track some of the targets. Obviously, in many cases, these targets are quantitative. In more cases than not, and in some cases it's just qualitative. Like, do we have a plan? Yes or no? Okay, great. So again, and so a lot of times too is that, the granularity depends on the subcommittee. So some subcommittees might want to decide to do or formulate a framework that's much more granular that is just for that activity or that sort of project intervention that they're working on. But overall, all these frameworks really do include the target beneficiaries, the segment of the population that's expected to benefit from one of these initiatives or subcommittee activities, or the behavior that's expected from that segment of the population. So we can actually really track and monitor if in fact it's helping the community. So the one that Jody presented is one just overall conceptual one. And then after a while, we'll get together and we'll start working on particular frameworks. So the subcommittees are not just, they have something to start with and can kind of immediately start working on things. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Any more questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, Jody, so for next steps, what are we thinking?
I don't know if we need to do the resolution to launch it or if we can launch it. I don't know if,
Okay.
if you'll want it to go to full council or, Tom, do you have a preference on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should make sure people have a chance to review it in this committee, review it and make any suggestions. Then I would propose we need to just run it by the mayor and then by the council. Council's ultimately the one who I think should, weigh in on this too. I mean, this has to be, it's city led. I mean, it may be a task force of the community, but we want the buy-in from the council too.
Okay, so Tom, do you think we should just, and I can ask the rest of the committee to provide comments or suggestions by like a certain date, and then we can take it from there. But it sounded like, we will make this something informal for the time being to avoid some of the administrative formalities that are associated with making it a formal commission. So I guess, yeah, Jody, we'll do that. We'll get everyone else's feedback and we'll modify the plan as need be, and then I guess Jody or Tom or Barbara, we have to, for this type of resolution, I'm assuming this is something we vote on, obviously, if it's going to go to the council, correct?
Yeah, I mean, this committee would vote and then you'd send it to the council. But again, I want to, I do want to just have a discussion when we get this in final form with the mayor and just to go over everything with him.
Okay, perfect. So those are the next steps. Oh, let me just made a note here, Nora. So for the record, Ms. Najeski Eichner entered the meeting at 6:13. So that means that we can vote on the minutes now since we have a quorum. So acceptance. All right. So can I have a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the regular meeting June 11th, 2025?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Eichner. Any corrections or deletions? Seeing none, hearing none. Okay, so all in favor? It's two. Is Lisa there? Ms. Shanahan, are you there?
I'm abstaining.
Right. Abstaining. So we have two in favor. So now can we vote on this? Can we move forward? No, right? Okay. That's fine. I mean, if that's the case, then we can vote on it next time around, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Johan, I think you should get everybody's comments before people vote on it, just to make sure they're voting on
Oh, no, I mean, we're voting on the regular, the meeting notes. Because we
Oh,
couldn't vote on them in the
I'm
beginning
sorry.
because, no, we're not voting on them. No.
Okay. all right.
Just the meeting notes because we
Oh,
didn't have a
there's
quorum.
there's
Oh,
a
there we
Last
go. Okay,
meeting
thank you. All right.
minutes.
There we go. Okay, thank you. We have a quorum that has unanimously. We have an abstention, Ms. Smith. And on that note, can I have a motion to adjourn? Okay, thank you, Ms. Shanahan. Again, thank you, everyone. Jody, thank you very much. Happy to be working with you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Thank you, Ms. Eichner. Thank you, Ms. Shanahan. And thank you to all to listeners from around the world. So thank you. So this will be fun.
you.
All right.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Exciting.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes,
Bye.
for sure. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.